Hey guys, welcome to another East Coast Rams podcast. I am your co-host Ashton here with my awesome co-host Zach. And hey guys, it's officially summer. We gone back after a few weeks, enjoying the nice summertime. I went on vacation. Zach, how are you doing? Did you enjoy some of the schedule release videos?
Hey, yeah, I'm this is a lot of people don't realize how exciting it is to get the release. We've been waiting for months to know. We've
Mm-hmm.
we've known who they were going to play. We knew which ones were home games and which one was away games. But this is the time where now, as fans and as obviously as content creators, we now get to dive into that schedule, understand, where the Rams are going to succeed early on or late in the season,
Mm-hmm.
but also get to plan on maybe where me and you get to go travel and represent ECR either at SoFi or some of these away places.
hmm No, definitely. It's always fun to kind of like finally get a tangible thing. We're always talking about hypothetical like locations, timelines, and stuff like that, and it's always nice to kind of get the actual real schedule. That way, we can kind of see and potentially project how the season could go. But
Uh,
first off, guys.
nope, go ahead. You finish your thought.
I was just gonna say, first off, guys, if you don't mind, please like and subscribe, and please comment down below or in the chat if you're watching us live, guys. What's your favorite game you think you will end up watching or going to this season? Please tell us down below which one you can't wait to get tickets for or be able to watch. I know last year we all had that Bills game kind of like circled on calendar. What a game that was to watch. So, what were you saying earlier? Zach?
No, I was also just going to promote. So, also, I don't know if Ashton was going to promote it at some point, but he's also doing an ECR fantasy football kind of a side channel a little bit to our ECR content. So, please make sure you go and find that video. Ashton, what are you doing with
Mhm.
that?
Yeah. So me and my awesome co-host Will, he's a big guy into fantasy. He loves to do a bunch of different drafts and stuff like that. And I felt like I've always enjoyed fantasy. Last 3 years, I've been doing it. I've been getting into it more, and we decided to do kind of a side series and see how people like it. And got decent numbers on it, and I feel like that's been a very fun, interesting fantasy draft to do. So if you guys don't mind, check that video out if that is the kind of thing you're into. Uh, for the most part, I feel like we have a really good set of players in that league, and it should be very competitive and fun.
Yeah, no, I think it's super awesome. I love fantasy, but you really go all out on it. So it's definitely something that everyone should check out. I know I tweeted, and I'll tease it towards maybe the middle or towards the end of the episode, but we will have a giveaway. So
Hmm
if you followed us on X all day today, I've been posting things about it. We'll give some more details about that coming up later. But let's talk about the main topic of the day, and that is the Rams. The whole NFL released their
Yep.
2025 schedule. The Rams had a fantastic video out there. Every team now is kind of doing these hype videos for their schedule. In the past, the Chargers have been kind of leading the way, and I think the last couple of years they've done an anime style, some high quality stuff. But this year, it seems like every team is really getting into these videos, and the Rams were no exception. We had the fabulous Brenda Song on there doing ours, and yeah, they were just super. It was just super awesome. It was well put together. I loved it. They had fantastic jokes in there. Loved all the discs for the 49er fans. It was perfectly done and very high class for the Rams. What did you think of the video?
I'll
You
say
thought it was cheesy?
I thought it was a lot better than in recent years. I will give the social media team credit. I felt like in years past, it was borderline cringy, if not like it just didn't work out for me. This time, I chuckled a few times. I appreciated it. I like that it was relatively short to the point. Like you said, some of the jokes really did hit. Some of the other ones, not as much.
Sure.
But for the most part, I thought they did a good job, and especially relative to other teams this year. I don't know if you saw some of them, Zach, but I felt like half of the social media teams in NFL were on acid because there's some really weird.
Well, then the Colts and the Chargers decided to do the same topic, and they both did Minecraft. Like, it was it was kind of funny to see all that. But I didn't get to watch all of them, but I did enjoy some of them, and I have obviously a soft spot uh, for the Rams video, and I
Yeah,
want to.
Otto, I will agree. Like, I would say a third, if not like half of them, are always like cringe level. Most of the time, the Rams are in kind of in that bucket. But I would say they did good. A few other teams, like you said, Colts, Chargers, the Seahawks, I thought had a really good one. I'll give the Seahawks credit. 49ers did. Seahawks had the action figure one, and the 49ers did kind of like a Oregon Trail esque kind of little video game. So, yeah, the Browns was trippy. I think that was made with AI, to be honest. I did not like. If
They
you want
they
to
press
feel
the
like you're
they
on
press the
drugs,
easy button.
yeah, because it's like the brownie, that the elf, like holding things and like doing weird stuff, and it
It's
didn't.
it's the Browns. It's the Browns. We don't know what the heck's going on over in that on that team. So,
Yeah,
all right. Well, let's talk about the schedule. I'm going to pull it up here for us. Obviously, it starts off with three preseason games, two at home, the Cowboys and the Chargers, and then following up the Browns. But we're going to push aside on the preseason games. Not something super exciting to talk about because we always know that the starters do not play. So let's talk about the actual regular season. We start off with the opening week at SoFi Stadium playing against the Texans. How are you feeling about opening week against the Texans?
well, just quickly, Zach, before we talk about the Texans, can we mention that like we only had 4 primetime games this year? And it was a weird selection of primetime
I
games. Like, do you
agree.
agree with me there? Like, I feel like the fact that us versus the Eagles or the Lions isn't prime time, I
It's
find that, and the Ravens, like,
I
that's bizarre.
I I do I agree with you. I think for primetime games, I mean I don't know. You throw that weird London game in there, which is not a primetime game, but at the same time, it's in a different facility. It's at a different whole time zone thing. Um, but yeah, you look at it, 49ers, that kind of makes sense. Divisional rivalry for Thursday Night Football, that's fine. I would have almost thought that you would have seen the Seahawks, the first game back with Cooper Cup, that one being could a potential primetime
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, the Eagles, weird that that one's not a primetime game. The Ravens, I think that has the ability to, well, I don't think they flex primetime. So that doesn't really, I don't think they can do that.
They can later. They can put in a prime slot. I don't think they
I
can
do
flex
think the
prime time.
Ravens though falls within that slot because that would be 5 games. So that would be the first game I think eligibility to be
Mhm.
shifted. Lions I thought would have been another good pick to be a primetime game. Another Stafford versus Goff battle. Those are always pretty intense. We did get the Seahawks in Seattle for a Thursday night football game, but then also like you said, the Buccaneers and the Falcons kind of two oddballs to throw in prime
I
time.
I agree with the Bucks. I think the Bucks is a great pick for a primetime game, Zach. I think the Bucks are going to be a top 10 offense. They're going to be very fun to watch, especially if Evans and Godwin can stay healthy. But the Falcons, I almost only think that's that case, Zach, because we have their first round pick, to be honest.
It could be. It definitely could be, but again, you always, you want them to be fantastic games. And I don't know yet. Obviously, we don't know how the Falcons are going to come out. We don't know how the Rams will come out. starting the season off. So it could be a game winning, it could be a game decision game. It may not be. So we'll see. Otto, yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem
I
necessarily with the number. I think that the Rams maybe should have got at least one more. Any more than that, again, there's only so many. There's 32 teams, 18 weeks. You know, I feel like every team should have the opportunity to play in a primetime game. And so when you do all the math, I don't think that you can necessarily, fit more than five. So I think five is kind of that prime number. I think so. I would say they got dinked once, but again, you also have the Jaguars game too, which is again not a primetime game, but it's not a normal game either.
Yeah, I'll disagree with that because we have a winning record in prime time, and we're very good on short short games after like 3 or 4 days. So with McVay, we have done especially well. Like I would say we struggle more on those like 1 o'clock starts at home under McVay more than anything else. Like
Well,
we've
so
done really good traveling on the East Coast and like
yeah, so I mean, if you look at the schedule favors us based on some of those stats that you even said, because a lot of these are
mhm,
early games. If you look at the Titans, that's an early game, Eagles, an early game, the Ravens, early game. Those are things that on the East Coast, the Rams have been very successful at. Where I think the Rams
yes.
sometimes, I agree with you into a point of some of the Thursday night games. I think the Rams are very successful on Thursday night. I think it comes to Sunday night football, which
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like they start to go down. And I think Monday night, again, not knowing the stats, just kind of based off memory, seem more 50-50. So again, I think the sweet spot for any team is to try to get 4 to 5. They got the 4. So it is what it is. There's 3 teams who didn't make the slot in prime time. So, you kind of take that as it is.
I mean, I'll say with that auto, I feel like some of that also has to do with like timing, especially in the last 2 seasons. We've had a lot of primetime games in the middle of the season. Both seasons, when that happened, we had injury issues too. So, especially 2 years ago.
Yeah,
So that
I'll try
can,
to pull up some of those stats to see if I can find that
yeah,
while you keep talking about it. But
yeah. But about the Texans, and we can kind of open up about week one. A very young Texans team. Their O line struggled a lot last year, but CJ Stroud is still a really good QB. They have a very good wide receiving core, which they added to of the Iowa State wide receivers too, because they had a lot of injury issues. Nico should be back, so he's going to be really good. He's going to test his secondary. So it's a very deep class. I know they brought in some, I believe they brought in some O line free agents. They did lose, I forget his name, the one guy from the Dolphins that they traded for, but they traded him away to Washington. So Texans, some O line issues. I feel like that's going to be where this game is won or lost is with our D line. If they can get the Stroud and kind of cause some issues and not let that deep wide receiver core go nuts, I think we'll have a pretty good game. And their defense is sneakily good. So
yeah, again, I feel like sometimes bringing these up, the Texans. I think that again that they have to rework that offensive line. If their offensive line can't really handle the Brandon Fisks, the Jared Verses, the BYs.
yeah,
That is where that this Rams team is going to succeed. It's going to be on that defensive front. It's going to see how they can handle and put the pressure on CJ Stroud. And I really think that again, that's the weakness of CJ Stroud is I think that he could get razzled by that young defensive line. And if so, that could cause trouble for the Texans. But it is also the Rams home opener. So mostly I feel like that's going to be have more home field advantage than anything else.
yeah, we'll definitely see. And then when it comes to Texans defense, I feel like their secondary, they have really good safety tandem. Their cornerbacks have gone better, but they're not the best, but they're not the worst. I would say they're better than ours. And then their defensive front is really good. I like their D line. I don't think they're a great D line, but I think they're like 12th, 13th. They're borderline elite.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that the Rams still, again, we always play this too early to tell, but this definitely favors more in the Rams' favor.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
surprisingly, if you look at the betting odds, most of the games in this whole schedule favor the Rams, just by the betting odds currently since the release of this calendar.
No, I think overall, Zach, I'm very positive in going in this year. I think they addressed a lot of what they needed to going in and out of free agency in the draft on offense and defense. And I think the question is, can we finally have the offensive line gel? We've said 2 years in a row we like our own line on paper, and they just start off slow and don't like get cohesive, and then like injury issues 2 years
Yeah,
ago,
the
and then last year was just they couldn't get a good rotation
I
going until halfway through the year.
Yeah, I mean, it falls with the injuries, and it always seems when the O line gets injured, that's when the Rams start doing their worst because again, they're shifting so many players. Shifting one player is not a big deal, but when you have to shift two players and then you have to reorganize the whole offensive line, and you move from your center that you've been working with, you switch them last minute, and then you end up switching them to another one all of a sudden, you just lose that cohesiveness. And again, like bringing in some of these players that the Rams did this offseason, I really think that it's going to help with the death piece. And yeah, bringing back Coleman Shelton, I think is just going to be, as much as people want to say, why do that? I think that it just brings more cohesiveness back to the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, last year wasn't as much as injuries as it was just they didn't know what to do at center, and they kept on trying to rotate in like Jonah Jackson and like Steve Avila. They didn't know, and it took some time for them to figure out what they want to do with that position. It remains to be seen if Coleman Shelton, who also I think he was in top five for interior linemen with letting pressures happen last year on the Bears. So we'll see if he's an improvement from Limmer. And I actually thought Limmer started to play a lot better closing out the year,
Yeah, but just also like
personally.
worst case, Shelton is a backup to Limmer, and I think that's a good thing. I think
Yeah.
Shelton can kind of help with the cohesiveness, work with him on Matthew Stafford's, tendencies, work on getting Limmer to be that future center that I think the Rams could utilize him with when you have someone who knows how to communicate Matthew Stafford's offensive line. When you had Steve Avila, remember that was his second year. They shifted him, and then bringing in Jonah Jackson, it was good, but again, he was not part of Matthew Stafford's offensive line until last year. So
Mm,
bringing Shelton back just brings that more flow back to the or back to that offensive line, and I think it
mhm.
gives Matthew Stafford comfortability. It allows Stafford to not have to be the because if I remember right, Stafford was still calling all of the passes, but Limmer was doing all the run calls, like with the offensive line. And so I think getting Limmer up to speed and being able to be that center that can vocalize to the rest of the group is something super important.
Mhm. So, moving on to the Titans, September 14th, going on the road there against Cam Ward and the whole new crew, whole new coaching staff. I believe the GM also got relieved, and now the offense looks a lot different than it did last year. They signed a whole bunch of new linemen. I feel like this is an improved O line. That defense has some good pieces to there, but I feel like this is going to be a growing unit, and I think it's fortunate to get a rookie this early in their kind of season. How are you feeling about Titans and Cam Ward?
Yeah, I mean, I again, this one again goes and favors the Rams a little bit more again, just because of the instability of the Titans, because we're not sure where they're at. Um, we don't know if they're going to be a contender or not. We we just don't know how Cam Ward will be with the Titans, and so if again, this kind of goes back to if he gets back to what I was talking about the CJ Stroud thing, is it's our defense. If our defense can shake up Cam Ward, then it's going to be easy sailings for the Rams.
Yeah.
Because that is the important factor. And the Rams defense tends to do that even with veteran quarterbacks. You look at it all last year. I mean, they were giving trouble to Sam Darnold. They were giving trouble to Kyler Murray. They were giving trouble to Brock Purdy and um,
Hmm.
you know Jalen Hurts and all of those, Lamar Jackson. Like they were still getting to them, and so or getting close to getting to some of those faster quarterbacks. So again, it's all about how that pass rush really helps the Rams defense out. I'm not, other than that, I'm not too concerned. Again, I'm hoping that the Rams offense can get into that better rhythm, but
Hmm.
that's the key. It's going to be the key in every one of these games is, can the Rams find that rhythm early? Is this going to be a 2021 Rams where they're electric and it's the first pass of Stafford this year is to a deep Adams and with a touchdown score, or is it going to be what we've been dealing kind of with the last 2 years of we're getting these 3 to 4 yards, we're moving the ball but eating up a lot of clock to do it. We're pushing to get every inch, utilizing Kyron Williams or whoever in the backfield. That's going to be the challenge. Can the Rams be more efficient on offense? And having the Texans and having the Titans in the first 2 weeks, I think gives us that picture early. If they can't do it weeks 1 and 2, well, we're going to have some problems going into week 3 against the Eagles.
Yeah, and going into the Eagles, I feel like this has been a big emphasis on this going into this postseason after playing the Eagles has been stopping the run and fixing the issues on the first and second level of the defense that caused us to get gashed by multiple of those big long runs by Saquon. And I feel like the Rams did a great job. They addressed the linebacking core. They added a lot of good run stopping pieces in that first line in free agency, taking a guy from the Chargers, and then also signing Stewart in the draft, right? So you see a lot of these things where they kind of moved off of a supporting cast that was more oriented supporting Aaron Donald to something that fits more with what we have now, a more, I would say, overall group for pass rush, a group effort, and less about just leaning on Aaron Donald as much as possible. So yeah, it's going to be a big game for us, Zach. I think this is where we're going to find out. Is this Rams team going to be more like 2021, or are they going to be more like the last 2 years? And if we can beat the Eagles, I think that sets this team up very well for a really good regular season run and be able to compete for a top seed. And I feel like this team would do well with a top seed, especially with, like, we travel well, but I feel like you could feel on the team just slightly more exhaustion than other teams.
I mean, I definitely think that the Rams are going to have they're going to want to fight this. Jared Verse is going to be that
Oh yeah.
vocal leader of this game and being like, we have to win this. We came close last time. We have to win this. Which could, to be devil's advocates for the Rams, that could be a detriment. They could be overdoing it maybe a little bit in their aggression, and could make mistakes that way. But again, if
Yeah.
but what I will say that is if the Rams lose this game, I will not, well, depends on how they would lose this game if they did. If they lost it, by a field goal or even a single touchdown and it was a close battle back and forth, I wouldn't be concerned moving forward. Now, if it's a complete blowout, obviously, then we're going to have some concerns again. Um, but this Eagles team, whether, are a lot of the same pieces that they were last year. And if they can keep cohesiveness, if they can keep a health, they are going to continue to be a threat. But we've already seen that the Rams were able to handle it, even in weather conditions that they had. So I still feel very positive about this game, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is one that they lost to in the early weeks. But after looking at the first 5 weeks, I could easily see this team being 4-1.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this is a type of schedule where you have a lot of, I won't ever call them layups in NFL, but very winnable games, or games that I feel like the Rams should be favored if their offense progresses from where it's been in the last year or so, and the defense stays elite. And I feel like this is going to be an elite defense, Zach. And I feel like this offense has an opportunity to be a top 10 offense. And if those two things happen, this is a schedule where you have 2 or 3 games that you absolutely should win, and then you face a contender. And then you have 2 or 3 more games in between where you can reset. And yet, I don't expect us to go 17-0, but I do expect this team to take more hits than not, and start just finish with a
Yeah.
really good record.
I mean, every team is beatable. Every team, and I've said this every year. People probably are sick of me. Like when we go do our, before the season, and when we kind of pick how many wins and losses, we may even do that part of this episode. But I'm
Mhm.
always optimistic because this team can beat anybody. It's if can they not trip over their own shoes to get there. The defense has always held their own. The defense have always kept us in the game. It's in our offense that seems, and this isn't Stafford's fault. I'm not blaming one person.
No,
There's
no,
usually
it's Stafford's
there's
been good.
it's either we don't have explosive runs, or we can only run the ball and we can't throw our receivers can't catch the ball, or
It's red zone.
Stafford's getting beat up, or the offensive line is falling apart. Like it's not one single issue that the offense have seen, but now we need to see if we can get some cohesiveness into this. Um, and like I
Yeah,
said, the first 5 weeks, we look at the next 2 weeks, the Colts back at home in SoFi, Colts, and then the
should be
49ers.
one. Yeah.
Colts should be a beatable team. It depends on who's under center. Obviously, if it's AR, Anthony Richardson, I think that again, our defense can kind of figure him out and get him kind of moving around the pocket and making some error throws. Um, if it's Daniel Jones, he hasn't played for an entire season, so I don't know how well he's going to work within that Colts team. The Colts defense is pretty good. Their offense is it's not really anything super exciting other than uh, Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor.
But other than that, I'm not threatened by the Colts.
No, I feel like Colts is one of those rosters where it's like an average roster. They don't have a lot of large like huge gaping holes, but they don't excel anywhere either,
But
particularly outside of, like, you could say maybe O-line. But for the most part, like, Anthony Richardson has really killed the offensive momentum of that team. They were a better team with Joe Flacco, and that's just
they were,
point
and
blank.
that's but and the Colts are just a weird team too because they can beat the Chiefs, but we don't know why they could beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs they would lose to the Chiefs, or they would beat the Chiefs, but then they would lose to X, Y, and Z team too. Like they can win super
They'll
against
get blown out by the Titans after beating the Ravens.
yeah,
They're that type of team.
they're just an odd team. Then we
Yeah.
come back home, or we stay at home for Thursday night football. So it's a short week from the Colts, um, but I think that's okay, especially it depending on how that game goes. Thursday night football against the 49ers back in SoFi. How are you feeling about this? Brock Purdy, McCaffrey. What's your thoughts?
Man, that roster's in such a interesting or weird position, and I feel like they kind of put themselves in that situation. If I was them, I would move on from Purdy. I don't think Purdy's a bad quarterback. He's a good quarterback, but
He's
he
very
is
a
not.
system quarterback.
Yeah, I would say he's better than that. He's like 15, 14 in top QBs in the NFL, which is good, but he's not a guy who can elevate your roster. And their roster is getting older, and they already had to get rid of a few people. They're probably going to have to trade Ayuk. Kittle is getting up there in age, and their defense is getting up there in age. I know they added a few pieces and they focused on that in draft, but it'll be interesting to see what kind of 49ers team we get and if they're competitive. And
I mean,
if they are, like, it's always going to be a close game,
yeah, whether or
right?
not, I mean, they could be injured galore like they were last season, and yet
Hmm.
it's always a game that we're biting our teeth knowing if they're going
Yeah.
to win or lose. So um, it's never really a game
I still
changer.
can't believe we beat them when I was there. I still can't believe that game ever happened, man. Oh,
All right, so 10 days later, we get a little mini buy. One of the Rams' first mini buys going into the Ravens game, which I think this is needed. Our buy is coming up. We'll talk about that here soon. Obviously, you can see it on our schedule, but you see that but having a mini buy within the first 5 weeks of the season, I think very much helps the Rams, gets them a little bit more healthy to take on the next stretch. Because then you got the Ravens flying out to the Ravens for another 1 o'clock, 10 a.m. game. Um, Again, another weird thing that we're putting out there is that we really don't have to play any bad weather teams at in this schedule. We get the Ravens and the Eagles in the warmer
Uh,
climates.
yeah, really only the Seahawks potentially if it's very rainy. But
Yeah,
like
and it's I mean it
we'll
might
see,
be, but
right?
it's not going to be like snowing and like for it
No,
like how
no,
the Eagles game was or how it could be in Baltimore in the late December time
no.
frame too.
I am
So
so thrilled the Panthers game is not in September like it was when I went in 2019 because people are passing out in that game.
oh wow.
So, yeah, but the Ravens, this is a game that's going to be an hour and a half north of me. Uh, Probably will end up going to this game. But man, Lamar, he's amazing. The Rams cannot beat Lamar to save his life. Guys,
He's a
we
magician.
only beat we've only beat the Ravens when he wasn't in the game since McVay has been the head coach of the Rams.
Yeah, that guy is a magician. I mean, he can get out of everything. So kudos to him. But we'll see how that goes. Then
Yeah.
we go to London. Go to London and have ourselves a good
Oh
golly,
yeah, the Jags.
a good old
Yeah.
game with some fish and chips.
What was
Good old
that?
London.
Higby? I know maybe it was Higby in 2019, but uh someone had 3 touchdowns in the London game against the Jags. Was it Cup? It could have been Cup in
Mhm.
2020 or
Yeah,
2019.
that sounds about right.
Yeah. But London games, weird as heck time. Don't I what will I say? I'll end up waking up early for this game and hating myself
It's
doing this
9:30
on
your time.
Sunday.
It's 9:30 your time.
Our time? That's
Our
still
time.
early.
Yeah, but
Still
that's
early.
not 6:30. It's not like we're in LA and have to wake up really early on a Sunday. But anyways, it's still going to be an interesting game. Hope it's good. I want the Rams to win. The Rams won the last time they were there against the Bengals. So hopefully we can keep up our
Hmm.
London streak. Yeah, we were there in 2019 against the Bengals. So watched that from my good old home or my dad's house in Cincinnati. So
Huh.
it was a good win there for us. All right. So then after that, we go to our bye week, which if you saw the leaks
Good
that
bye
came
week.
out, it's a good bye week. Everyone, this should be where you're bye. If you go play in, overseas in an international game, you should have a bye week afterwards just to be
Yeah,
able to reacclimate. A lot of the leaks had this week and the Saints week, the next week flip flopped, so they thought that we were going to go to the Saints and then a bye week,
that would
but
have been terrible.
it would have been. So luckily that did not happen, and so we get to have a bye. I think again another crucial spot being put in week 8. I think this definitely will help keep the Rams healthy, and if there are injuries, we can recoup for the second half of the calendar. Going into the Saints, hosting them at SoFi. Thoughts about the Saints?
Uh, Again, other rebuilding team completely decimated for an office, new regime, Kellen Moore. They probably are going to be starting Tyler Tyler Show, second round QB, and their defense is getting old. Other underrated defense, but
Yeah,
a lot of old veterans that they probably should move on from. So this should be a very winnable game.
should
And
be winnable.
Zach, what do you make of the fact that the Rams only have one NFC West game before week 10? We only have one.
Yeah, that's
That's a
super
little weird,
interesting.
right?
It is.
They normally split almost like 3-3 normally in the
Mhm.
first half and second half.
Yeah, they want to. I think they really want to keep the suspense going for the NFC West and trying to figure out that wait till the last minute to figure out who
Hmm.
is gonna take that on. But like you just mentioned, like you said, NFC West. We got after that after Week 9. We do have back-to-back NFC West battles. Once again, we get done with our 49ers by Week 10. Have hit both of them by Week 10. So we go hit that. We've already discussed that a little bit. It'll be in 49ers territory. It's going to be a tough battle no matter what it is. But then we come to November 16th, where the Rams will host the Seahawks and have Cooper Cup coming back to SoFi Stadium. This is going to be an emotional game
Yeah.
for everybody. This is going to be an emotional game for the Rams. This is going to be an emotional game for Cooper Cup coming back to the stadium that you played in for your whole career. Um, by that time, both systems are in place. Cooper Cup knows the Seahawks system. The Rams know, Rams are good with Devontae Adams, and hopefully everything is gelling for both sides. But this is going to be a challenge. If the Seahawks were smart and Cooper Cup provided intel, this would be the way to provide that intel to know staff. I think Cooper Cup would do that? No, I don't think he would. But this would be the time to utilize that smart Cooper Cup skill of
I I'm gonna be honest, Zach. I think we blow them out both games. I
and we
think Donald. His biggest thing is he is even worse than Goff with getting flustered with pressure. And that Vikings O line, outside of when Darshall got hurt and it did get a little worse, was the best line he had ever had with as a professional. I would say this Seahawks line is worse than the Jets line he had when he was with the Jets. And
I,
I'm gonna
I
be
don't
honest, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not starting by this time in the season.
I don't disagree with you. I don't. I really don't. I do think that the Rams do win these games single-handedly. My point is that you do have a secret weapon as far as Cooper Cup being so smart and knowing the Sean McVay and the Matthew Stafford playbook so well. Now, can they execute with that knowledge? I think that's where the test would be. So I'm more in your camp. I just was bringing that correlation of
Yeah.
you have someone as smart as Cooper Cup. If you don't utilize him in trying to figure out the Rams offense and how they're going to run against him, well, that's even more shameful to the Seahawks organization in of itself.
Yeah,
I will say, sorry, you finish your thought and then I'll finish mine.
I'm just gonna say he's gonna have PTSD after playing the Rams these 2 games, just like the 2 games he finished against the Rams. Our D line is in you know this, Zach. I said it was gonna be top 5 D line, and people thought that was a hot take. I think we're gonna have the best D line in the NFL this year. I think their growth is gonna be even more evident. And I think by this time, as long as the offense does its half up to this point in the season, I think these are teams where if their O line is not sewed up, we're going to just rip teams apart like this.
Yeah. You can only do so much with intel. You have to be able to execute that intel. And again, like you said, I think our defensive line, we picked up, we got Puna Ford. We still have Jared Verse, Brandon Fisk, BY. We got a solid defensive front, and they're going to put pressure. And like you said, Sam Darnold is going to have the PTSD of getting those attacks. Now, whether he's able to adjust from having those 2 games against us, we'll see. But
Potential.
potential. So the only thing that I will say that will give the Seahawks a edge to this game, there's one thing, there's one piece of information that I need to tell you of why the Seahawks may win this game. That is because I should be attending this game. So I know I'm bad luck. I'm bad luck on home. I don't think I've ever been to a home winning game.
What's your record?
My
Right
record
now?
is not very good. It's not very
It
It's like
do we have a total
it's
compilation?
like 2-5.
Oh no.
It's like 2-5, and both of those wins are when they were here against the Colts. So it's not looking
It's
good.
fine. I
I've
can't.
I have never been to a Rams home game win. I've been to the Edwards Dome, I've been to the Memorial Coliseum, and I have been to SoFi Stadium, 1 game each,
Mm.
and I have never seen a winning game there. It is disappointing. I will own the loss. I will take personal responsibility for that
Fair
loss
enough.
if that
Fair enough.
happens. I mean, you go back to 2021. I know this is a side story. I probably told this a few times on the pod, but I was at the Titans game in 2021
Oh
where
no.
we should have won that game single-handedly. They didn't have their quarterback. They didn't have Derrick Henry on the field. He was injured, and we got our butts whooped. Stafford threw like 2 interceptions, 1 pick six, sacked a handful of times. It was the ugliest game I have ever witnessed as a Ram. And that was the year they also went to the Super Bowl. So that was the last time I was in SoFi Stadium watching a game there. So we'll see what happens. And this is the same timeline too, because I went in this, it was like that mid-November time frame too.
Mm.
Which actually, to think about it, all 3 Rams games, that home Rams games, each and every one of them, I think it was a November game. So
Yeah.
weird stuff
Yeah.
here. All right.
Okay.
No,
Go
I was just
ahead.
gonna say, I think we should start speeding through some of these a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we go from
Bucks
the next game to the Bucks game.
should
Any
be
thoughts
fun.
I mean, it should be a fun game. It'll be
Yeah.
in the
I
Bucks
mean,
territory.
our boy Baker, a rejuvenated
He is not
career.
our boy during this game. He is not our boy during this game.
Okay.
He is
Okay.
an enemy of the state.
Yes. And really good O
Jared Verse needs to
line
take him
down
out.
there.
Jared Verse will take him out. He will be paid.
He is someone who does get flustered, but he's not as bad with that. I feel like they don't have Liam Cohn anymore, so we'll kind of see how the Bucks move away from that. Otto made a good point. Like the Bucks have a really loaded. The teams this year did a very weird thing in the first round where you had a lot of loaded wide receiver teams keep on drafting more wide receivers. Now, like I get it from the Bucks in the future that'll work out, but for now, we'll see how their offense kind of holds up. Their biggest kryptonite was their run game wasn't the best. Bucky Irving kind of broke out late last year, so We'll see if we can hold them down. That should be a really good offensive game. That it could give us shades of that Bills Rams game from last year.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could. And, we will see where our secondary goes from there. That's, again, that's our kind of our unknown point of how well our secondary can keep up with those types of high flying receivers. But again, with the crew that we have on our defense, I'm not super worried as much going with this one.
Mhm.
Moving on to week 13, we go into the Panthers in Carolina. Another one that this is a potential of me coming to this game. I have family who live in Carolina, so
Yep.
I may make the trip. The only cause of concern is that this is also Thanksgiving weekend,
Mhm.
so I got to figure out all the details there. But that's another potential uh, spot that I might land.
We will definitely go to this game. Just because we go to Thanksgiving in South Carolina. So I'll be driving in and we'll be driving back from South Carolina up to where I live in Virginia, and we'll probably end up going to this game. So I hope you can go, Zach, and we can show you around, and you don't have to worry about 99-degree heat with like 100% humidity.
Hey,
Is
I
since
think
it's
when I go to like if I go to SoFi on November 16th, it may be chilly. Last time when I was there, it was cold. They had a draft going through that canopy, man.
mm,
But I'm looking forward to Carolina. I've never been to the Panther Stadium. Like I said, I have family that are like
it's
25, 30
it's
minutes
nice.
from there.
It's
So
nice.
I'm looking forward to it. Moving on to December. November is usually a very bad month for the Rams, but then we go into December and it's a very good month for the Rams. So we hit December 7th, our first visit at Carolina or at the Cardinals. Whoops,
Hmm.
at the Cardinals. Um, Again, the Rams should be able to handle business against the Cardinals. They typically do. Um, Kyler Murray does tend to fare poorly against the Rams defense, but he can make some magic happen when he wants to or when he has that opportunity to. So they just need to keep him contained and not overshoot him
Do you know why? Do you know main difference?
because he's short.
It no, no. The biggest consistency between when Kyler Murray does a lot of magic and plays great versus when he doesn't is before and after. I think week 8.
Hmm.
If you go back and look at the games where the Cardinals beat us or play Murray plays good, it's always before their bye week. And it's always one of those things, once that offense hits their bye week, they start having significant issues and it starts to get worked out. Now, I personally think a lot of that is because of Murray just can't adjust, and a lot of their offensive scheme gets figured out, and he has issues changing the offense, especially after the first quarter. So that's a personal kind of like conspiracy theory I have, is a lot of NFL defenses figure out the Cardinals, and that's why you see a lot of these second half collapses, especially on the years where the Cardinals happen to be more productive than people thought they would be.
And McVay tends to find those and exploit those weaknesses.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and
then
we
we move.
play them pretty late.
Yeah,
So.
and then we move into the Lions, December 14th at SoFi Stadium. This will always be a tough one, though. The question will be: can Jared Goff um, be able to lead an attack without his, offensive coordinator, and then again the Lions in general without their defensive coordinator?
And guys, I'm let's not understate this. That game could be for the number 1 seed, even to lock it up.
Could
That will be the biggest game for a high seed, depending on where we are. And if we can take care of the Eagles and Bucks, like that's really your biggest competition right now. Um, in the NFC, you could maybe say Green Bay, but I still think Green Bay has some issues on the offensive side.
Yeah, I agree, but it's all gonna come down to the play calling, and can Dan Campbell
Yeah.
survive, um, whether you still have the talent in the field, that's great, but if you can't execute play calls, you know, that's where the things are gonna come to fruition. So the Lions are gonna have to be on their guard. Not again, this has nothing to do with Jared Goff. I think I will always say that I think he's a talented quarterback. They have very talented receivers and running backs and things like that, but can they hold up to
Yeah.
with the play calls, losing your offensive and your defensive coordinator? The Rams have seen it. It's rough to go through. It kind of changes the whole dynamic of things, especially since we still have Sean McVay, and not saying Dan Campbell is a pushover, because clearly he's not. Um, but let's be honest, he's not calling all the plays. Um, he was more relying on his coordinators. Um,
Mhm.
so it's going to be interesting to see what the Lions do this season, but they are a very talented team and definitely a threat to the Rams getting that number one pick or number one spot in the NFC.
Yep.
Moving on,
And
so we got the Seahawks, another Thursday night game, our second Thursday night game. Um, up in Seattle, talked about that already. And then we get kind of a long mini break, extended by a day till we have Monday Night Football, and 11 days
Falcons.
after that. So against the Falcons.
Falcons are a very disjointed team with big holes in other areas. We'll see if their attempt to fix their problem with not getting pressure against QBs worked with drafting two edge rushers in the first round. But Michael Penix, uh, the Kirk Cousins experiment did not work at all. They do have a lot of offensive talent that's untapped between Pitts. They have Bijan, and then like you got London. So the question is, can they gel? And we'll definitely know that by the time of this game.
And
I feel like,
it's definitely gonna be on if they're playing for something, they're gonna obviously play to win. It's all
yeah.
gonna come down to timing on what their schedule looks like and where they're
Well,
positioned at.
their division is always going to be competitive because it's a bad division, frankly. So they should be in the running with the Buccaneers for that division. I just personally think their young team were way more experienced, and I think that will kind of show at the end of the day.
Yeah. And then the last game, Cardinals game, that can be flexed on either the third or the fourth. So that we will know those dates later on.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
only other piece of knowledge that I thought I would throw, because we both talked about it kind of on X, was the miles traveled. And for some
Yeah.
reason, the LA Rams and the LA Chargers are the two top teams that will travel the most distance in the NFL.
It's because the London and Brazil games is why.
Yes. Not surprised. A lot of times you will usually see the West Coast teams are usually the top teams to travel, just because there are so many on the Eastern Coast sideline. Um, so it always tends to be that way. But the Bengals should have no complaints being the team that doesn't have to travel hardly ever. And that's, I mean, you look at that. I mean, you
Uh,
both. I mean, when four or what is it? How many teams? Four. So six of the games places you play is like within you know a 2 hour flight.
yeah,
Cleveland, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. Um, they're always usually the lowest ones because they don't have to go very far
right there.
for their
Yeah.
for the divisional stuff. Um, so I was trying to find this deal. Oh, there it is. Yeah, Pitt. So yeah, they're that whole division right there is very close to each other. So
Yeah. Should
cool.
be fun.
Well, hey, this the schedule looks pretty good. I'm not going to say it's easy, because I definitely see that there are a lot of tough opponents on here. But the Rams are definitely a post 500 or an above 500 team. Um,
So what's your number? What?
You know, I
What's your
look at
number?
this and I think that, again, I will have to sit down. I haven't dived into all of these teams' draft picks and where they're going to be at. I think we'll have probably have the like a pre-meeting or a pre-season discussion about total
Mhm.
based off of this schedule. I could see them easily winning 13 games based
I'll say
on
14.
I did look up, so I want to go back to Otto if he's still listening, and talk about that on the the primetime games. In 2024, they were 3-3. They classified primetime games also as like the Arizona game that got shifted in December to the Saturday game. Um, but they had one, two, three, four, five other primetime games other than that weird Saturday game, and they were 2-3. Again, they are better on Thursday night football games, which they do have two, than they are on Sunday night and Monday night football games. 2023, they only had two games, and they were 1-1 for that one. In 2022, they were 1-3, and in 2021 they were 4-2. In 2022, they were 4-1. Um, so I think it's a mix. I get where Otto's saying because it does feel like we do get blown out. But again, if you look at it, a lot of times we do better on Thursday night football games, and we kind of split like Monday night games, and Sunday we typically don't do well with. And we have two.
Yeah,
We only have one Sunday night football game, so
I think that more just comes from when we have down years against good teams, we do not perform. It's very clear, and we don't even make it competitive. So
I'm
I get what he's saying. I feel like this year is going to be a little bit different. I don't see us getting blown out any of these games outside of maybe the Eagles, definitely the Ravens. I feel like the Ravens are the biggest chance because we do not match up well against them.
yeah,
We
especially
just don't.
especially going there. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do tend to agree with you. I think the primetime games, it's just very dependent upon themselves. They have a bigger spotlight. I am glad that we are not part of the early game or the early shift of Monday Night Football because I hated having like two or three games Monday night and you can't even watch them because they're so late in the day.
Hmm.
So I am glad that we don't have to do that. Yeah. Anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
Nope. I think
Oh,
we go 14-3, and it is one of the best Rams seasons we have seen since 21, regular
all right.
season wise.
All right, so I promised this at the top of the hour, but
Oh yeah.
for those who wanted to see, this is the signed Kevin Dotson jersey that we will be giving away. We will put it out officially on X when I'm ready to get it together. But basically, you're going to have to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You're going to have to follow us on X and retweet a post. So that's the stuff. But I wanted to at least show you guys who are tuning in live, or if you're watching on demand, the chance to see it before we actually put the promotion out on the socials. You have to do it on X. I will post it on Instagram and some of the other ones, but you have to like and retweet our X posts because that's seems to be where most of the people, the Ramley, are. Anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
Nah, should be a fun year. A lot of games near us, and I know me and you are gonna always try to get on the ground and give you guys some hard news on the ground and reporting and all that
Hey,
fun stuff.
we're gonna try our best. We're gonna get out there. We're gonna meet and greet. We're gonna talk to you fans during the tailgates and stuff like that. We really want to get involved in the Ram community. Hopefully, get on some special guests. So we're pulling out all the stops for you guys. So please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/at East Coast Rams. You can find us on X at East Coast Rams. You can find us on Instagram or Threads at East Coast Rams Pod. And you can also find us on Blue Sky as well. Just search for at East Coast Rams. I am Zach, your co-host. You can find me on X at Zach Mayer. That is Ashton, our also awesome ECR co host. You can find him at Rampan Ashton 1. Please make sure you also go look at his fantasy football video too. It is going to be super awesome to keep up with that. And with that, we will see you guys next time. Whose house? Rams house.